Chapter 9. After getting home, the first thing I did was go straight to my room and shut the door. I had asked everyone not to bother me. Even though I was hungry, I skipped dinner with the family. I couldn't be bothered with minor things. I was too excited to see what the new market had to offer. After all, I had achieved the second level in the trading system, thanks to Orochimaru. Do I trade with evil people? Why not? Most traders here focused on fighting. The most in-demand items were ways to strengthen oneself for battle, and the second in demand was medicine. The remaining were just accessories used to gain pocket money. By selling my net as balls, I was basically a weapon dealer. I couldn't talk about good and evil. There were only coins and those too poor to earn them. Before going to the level 2 channel, I gave the level 1 channel one last look, making one more trade to celebrate. Plus buying wyvern steak. 2 coins. Some people sold food, so since I skipped dinner, I didn't think much of it. After taking the food out of storage, a food box appeared from thin air and landed in front of me. It was a very delicious-looking steak of some fantasy world's wyvern. While chewing on it, I opened the level 2 chat channel. After giving it an examination, I felt a headache. People really talked in a strange way. Say Jiao, I'm looking for a sword to carry my earthly Dao to heavenly Dao. After cultivating for 100 years, I, the uncle of your mother, have achieved enlightenment, and I'm selling advice. Consider yourself lucky. Weren't those the type of guys who would describe white girls as jade beauties? Using my willpower, I stopped myself from cringing. I had stopped reading wuxia a long time ago. The first couple of novels were very good and unique. As for the rest, they were just copy-pasted. It's like a saint with treasure or 1,000 years reincarnated as trash, able to cultivate the technique he couldn't in his previous life, or someone who could just find treasures. Get stronger fast, and they always able to face those who were ranked above him easily. Jade beauties. Alchemy. Tournament. The young master. Do you know who my father is? Slapping faces, sect core members, sect elders. Not gonna lie, I like face slapping though. The only thing we all agree on is that these guys are OP when they advance. Seriously, someone 2 ranks above you can K*LL an army of you without you having a chance to escape. Destroy mountains with one palm. At the peak, you could break time and space. Although it takes time, a lot of it, it expands one's lifespan. I went to the shops, looking for something I wanted. Selling non-cultivated Dantian, 5,000 coins. I bought that. Now, once I absorb it into my body, I'd get chi energy. Also, I still had that chakra from Orochimaru, which I could absorb now. With this, I'd have 3 types of energy in me. I opened the absorption option in the system next to storage, finding 2 items in front of me. I mentally clicked on the Chunanworth chakra. An option of consume appeared on it. Next to the 2 items was an empty slot. An A+ mark appeared. When I clicked on it, an option of transferring my mana into an item appeared. Another option of extracting a specific knowledge of mine appeared. I absolutely rejected it. Anyway, I clicked absorb on chakra. A strange heat spread from my stomach. A foreign energy that I didn't know about invaded me. So this is chakra. Nice. Then, I absorbed the Dantian core. I could feel something from the air being absorbed into a region between my groin and stomach. I closed my eyes, feeling a faint energy that barely made any appearance. From my imagination, I could see a skeleton of me with 3 different colored energies. I looked for my chakra, and I tried to do something with it. But I could barely do anything with it due to the lack of knowledge. I tried to direct it to my finger, and I felt it nimble. I walked to the study office in the corner of my room and put my finger above one of my book's pages. The page reacted and stuck to my finger. It seemed that my problem with my chakra was experience and knowledge. Why did I even think that I'd be as strong as a Chunin with Chunanworth chakra? Naruto had Kageworth chakra as a Genin, and he wasn't that strong. I frowned, feeling that somehow I had been scammed by Orochimaru. I looked back at the level 2 items. Something else I noticed. Other than Logia devil fruits, most items ranged between 100 to 20,000 coins. There was even hockey knowledge for sale for 20,000 coins. I was about to buy it, but someone else got it before me. I was shocked because it was put on sale and got sold instantly. I couldn't blame people. After all, what's better than having the ability to predict others' actions beforehand? You would never get caught off guard. Also, not many would be willing to sell that knowledge. I wouldn't, not for that cheap. Anyway, I still had enough money to buy other things. Plus 10 years inner cultivation energy. 2,000 coins. This was the energy a person collected by cultivating for an unknown amount of time, but the average person could take up to 10 years to collect it. Others could drink some expensive elixir and get it in one day. It could work as a battery for me. Once I absorbed this energy, I could use it to cultivate. After all, my world lacked the energies from other worlds to use, so I had to buy them. I started looking for a cultivation method that focused on physical strength more than spiritual one. Why? Because I had to buy spiritual energy, and it was thin here. After examining the stuff, and their prices and average prices, I ended up choosing one. Plus cultivating method, the Flood Dragon method. 35,000 golden coins. This was one of the most expensive ones, with the most expensive being 50,000 coins. One would think it should be worth more. But if one could simply write a manual and sell endless copies to other dimensions, it wouldn't get too expensive. Anyway, I'm nearly broke again. I opened my system and looked at the details of my cultivation method. It had ranks as follows: Chi Refining, Earth Realm, Heaven Realm, Void Realm, Soul Realm, King Realm, Emperor Realm. In the description, once one reaches the Void Realm, they could shatter the Void itself. King Realm allowed one to destroy a country-sized place with one hit. But it could take almost 100 years to reach it, and each time you achieve a new rank, your lifespan increases. Also, each rank had 9 levels. I was amazed by the description, but I didn't think I'd have enough time or money to reach the peak by the time Japan becomes lawless. But again, I didn't need to reach the peak of cultivation to reach the peak of this world. Also, my Mana Warrior method gave me a strong physique to start with, which would work as a foundation. Anyway, to conclude my trades, I decided to spend the rest of my money on some fighting techniques. Buddha Palm Technique. Turn your chi into a giant palm. 2,000 coins. With this, I ended my preparation before the school entry. For now, I'd focus on reaching first rank warrior since it'd help me shoot my aura and manipulate its nature. I scratched the back of my head. I forgot to buy some ninjutsu. It seemed that I had to wait for Orochimaru to make money and send it to me. Orochimaru requests chatting with you. Seeing the notification, my heart skipped a beat, and I choked on my food. Speaking of the devil, I accepted his chat request, wondering what he wanted from me. Congratulations on reaching level 2, he said. I tilted my head, thinking that he wasn't the type of person to approach you like that for a friendly chat. Also, I got into level 2 today. Was he watching my profile consistently? Yeah. Now I can finally use that chakra, which is useless without technique. Fufu. I wouldn't call it useless if I were you. It could grow with you as you grow mentally and physically. Also, what's the matter? You lack ninjutsu. If you are here to sell me something, I'll have you know, I'm nearly broke. What? You had an outrageous amount of gold with you. Spend it all. Yes, I couldn't hold myself seeing the goods in level 1. For someone from a lowly world like yours, I guess it's understandable. So you understand since we both came from lowly worlds. Are you playing on my nerves? Are you? I mocked. It's like Orochimaru would be able to break through dimensions and come here. No, I'm just here for business. Also, I'm now at the peak of the lowly world. It won't stay the same, fufufu. What do you mean? I'm still a level higher than you. That's because you were greatly rich from the beginning. Fufu, he laughed. Anyway, what business do you have with me? I have noticed from the DNA you sent me. Parents of the chicken guy seem to have powers on their own. The people in your world have some unique Keki Genkai. It doesn't require chakra or some energy as well to use, making it more useful. If you mean quirks, which are genetic mutations, sure. Many people have different abilities and powers. That's the same. Anyway, the good thing about them being genetic is no chakra consuming. I was planning on making the perfect vessel. I think we could come up with a deal. So, tell me about your world and what abilities people have. I could smell where this was going. Orochimaru wanted some blood samples for himself to have quirks? Should I tell him at K*LLS the user to have that many? Who knows, he may have cultivated or had some way from a higher world to deal with that. Some people can create explosions, have superhuman strength. Some create mountains of ice. Some can regenerate in an instant. There is even someone who, with one touch, can modify your body. He can make you explode, heal you, destroy you, or even turn you into a girl if he desired. And the best thing, these abilities could get stronger with training. Fufufu. I get it. I could increase the sticky ball's effectiveness with chakra. Also, can you get their blood, especially the last one? They are too strong for me to approach. I replied. I'll pay you handsomely. Orochimaru said. I understand. But you know, I'm too weak. What's your power? Trading with you. So like I use a scroll to multi-dimension, you have the power to do the same, without a scroll? Not really. I replied. So, your title should be quirkless. Here's a deal. I'll give you knowledge about basic chakra control and hand signs. And in exchange, you'll bring me 3 DNA samples of guys from your world who have interesting quirks. And if you have someone interesting, you come to me first. Won't you forget the knowledge if you sell it? I'm forcing someone else to put their knowledge into the trading scroll. And if I want to give you mine, I could write a copy, but you won't be able to absorb it. And I don't want you to waste time. Orochimaru requested a trade with you. Y/N. After accepting the deal, I got something. Basic shinobi knowledge, plus chakra control, plus chakra manipulation, plus lightning release hand signs, plus shock palm jutsu. I laughed. Ha ha ha, Orochimaru. I think we could help each other a lot. Right. Before you go, I'll tell you something. If a guy named Naruto comes into contact with you, say you don't know me. He's from your world. Parallel world. But he has the power to make words reach you and hurt you. Just block him if you ever meet him. With that, I concluded my conversation with Orochimaru. I have to get him a few DNA samples for money. But he never mentioned when or what. Besides, I'm going to a school where people with quirks go. Chapter 10. The remaining of the month, I immersed myself in training, trying to use the remaining of my mana stones to train my heart. I was pretty excited that I was going to UA in a month, so I overworked myself every day. Just one day before entering the school, I had a breakthrough. A red energy pumped from my heart, wrapping around my arm. I was a little dumb because when I achieved the first rank warrior, I aimed my hand at the window. A ball of aura flew from my hand and broke the window. I learned to control my excitement. On the other hand, it made me feel quite tired since shooting aura meant losing more energy. Nevertheless, I got stronger. Also, I lied when I said that I would only focus on my warrior training. As I had 1 earth elixir and inner cultivation energy, I spent a few hours of the day cultivating my flood dragon method. By the end, I reached the 5th level of chi refining. Now, I had chi, and I could use its techniques. I had tried my only technique, Buddha palm, outside. From my hand, when I hit a tree from a distance, a large palm marked itself on the tree. That palm was almost human-sized, and it was still incomplete because of my low level. Once I reach Earth Realm, it would become a K***ler technique. Nevertheless, I'd focus from now on spending my school days peacefully and stealing a few hair and DNA samples. Shigaraki and all for one had yet to appear and wreck things. So I had time to prepare before things got bad. Anyway, I received my new school uniform from UA. Having worn it, I made my way downstairs, where I found Mom making me breakfast. I joined my family for a quick meal where we chatted. Kenshiro, when you become a hero, don't forget to mention our family name, said my Netta. My mom sounded a bit proud when she heard him, but I knew why my Netta was suggesting that. Don't worry, I replied. My hero's name would be the Lonely Child. I said, knowing my Netta was thinking about abusing my future hero name. Now Kenshiro, don't taunt your little brother. He's just a cute, adorable guy. I'm pretty sure he'll find a lot of dates, said our mom. My Netta sounded a bit happy, but the truth was, only your mom doesn't care about your look and think you are cute. I shrugged before excusing myself, taking the school bus. XXX. I stood facing UA entrance, a bunch of other kids going inside. UA wasn't only a school for heroes. It also had a normal course, support, and tech courses as well. Because society invested a lot in heroes, the heroic academies had a lot of money. That's why heroic school had been the best whether you planned to be a hero or not. When I turned my head to the sides, I could see a bunch of journalists being held out of the school, their cameras trying to get a glimpse of us. Class 1A. I thought as I picked up my student card, before putting it inside. My school uniform was a gray suit with a red necktie, which made me feel like a childish old man. I didn't like wearing suits or anything that looked like them. My favorite type of clothes was the comfortable one because I spent most of my time in my room doing clothes training or at the gym. I entered my class. Around 20 students were there. A few interesting ones caught my eye. Nijire was talking with a couple of girls, getting to know them. When she saw me looking, she smiled and raised her hand. I nodded. As she continued her conversation with her new friends, I turned my head and looked at my classmates. There was a bluish-black-haired guy who looked shy and emo. I called him emo because his hairstyle looked like Sasuke Uchiha. He stared at one girl. When she looked at him, he turned his head to the other way, pretending that he didn't make eye contact. I didn't mock him. Most were in his place at some point. This guy should be one of the next big three in the future. I wanted to recollect more about him. Taking a seat next to him, I said, taken? Replying with a cracking voice, he said, not at all, cough. Didn't catch your name, by the way, I asked. Tamaki Yamajiki. You. Minoru Kenshiro. Nice to meet you. Ah, he replied, placing his head on the table as if he wasn't excited about his first day as a future hero. I was quite excited as a future rich man. I'd become a hero, and then become a politician and make deals. I put a leg above another and grabbed my phone before looking for some websites to pass the time. So, what's your quirk? Asked Tamaki, initiating a conversation for my surprise. I thought he was the shy type. Aura, I replied. Aura? Is it a beam type of quirk? He asked. You could say so. Basically, it's an energy that allows me to do things, I replied. And yours? Manifest. I can manifest physical characteristics of anything I've eaten. He replied. I now remembered his quirk. Cool one, honestly. I should steal a hair from him and sell it later. I nodded. At that moment, the remaining students had taken their places, meaning that the homeroom teacher arrived. When I looked at who, I was familiar. How could I forget her? My first rejection in this life. Good grief. I thought as Midnight entered with her heroic costume. They assign a teacher like her for teenagers full of hormones? Good morning, everyone. I'm your homeroom teacher, Midnight, she said as she grabbed a spanking tool and placed it on her palm. Midnight talked about something most guys didn't give attention to, and as a guy, I didn't give attention either. She must have been talking about the heroic course. I mean, what do you expect when you give a class to a pretty lady with a seductive body? Maybe it's a form of training against future seductive villain females? I turned my head and looked at the other guys. Fair enough. Most of them were paying attention to the image, not the sound. Everyone, get your gym clothes and then follow me. I'm gonna see your quirks, Midnight said. I could recognize the event. Something similar happened in the canon when Midoriya was almost kicked out of the hero course. I wondered where Aizawa was. I thought he should be the homeroom teacher along with Khan. But on another thought, there are 6 classes in total, and each should have their own homeroom teacher, which didn't seem that he would change until their classes graduate. Anyway, I went to my locker room and changed my clothes to gym clothes, a blue attire. When changing my clothes, I had noticed something strange. Most guys were looking at my body. My aura was threatening to break out, but I held myself. It's the harsh price those who work out had to pay. Instead of being admired by women, guys would do it more. But most of the looks are of envy or admiration. Anyway, when I got onto the field, Midnight tasked the class to throw a baseball while she held a device in her hand to count the distance. The first one to throw it was Tamaki. I had to eat this for breakfast, he said with a disgusted look on his face as he held the ball, his arm turning into a gorilla-like arm. If I were him, I would eat insects. If we compared the strength relativity to size, then insects would be the strongest creatures on Earth. I thought. When Tamaki threw the ball, Midnight looked at the counter and said, 750 meters, not bad. Next was a blue-haired, blue-eyed guy who was called Jozu. He held the ball, and lightning danced around his arm. Then his arm vanished, throwing the ball into the air. The ball exploded in mid-air, releasing a sound similar to a bomb. If this guy was a boxer, he would surely have one good jab. Midnight said, 100 meters. Good speed. But you broke the sound barrier, and you couldn't control your lightning power. Jozu's hand was bleeding. He said, it's not like that, Midnight-sensei. I wanted to give it my best. He then gave her a look from head to toe, cheeks blushing. Midnight added, still, either control your speed or work on your strength. Next was Nijire's turn. She held the ball and threw it. Behind it, a colored shortwave was released. 900 meters. Nice one, Midnight said. Nijire smiled and took her place in the line. Minoru Kenshiro. Let's see how much you improved since the last encounter. And the recommendation test? Before it, she said. I held the baseball, red aura spreading from my body and then focusing on my hand, creating an aura around it. I threw the baseball, sending it flying with a red aura covering it. That thing that I just threw could be considered a weapon. After all, a warrior of the first rank isn't to underestimate in their world. And aura was their weapon. Midnight grabbed her counter, saying, 1,700 meters. You have potential, she said, raising her eyebrows as she read the digits. Was she amused? I didn't know. Anyway, I went back to my place and observed the remaining of my classmates who showed their quirks that I had never seen in the show. But you can't have a class with just 3 people. Anyway, I observed, deeming who were worthy of stealing their DNA samples. Nijire stood up next to me, saying curiously, "You've improved your strength in just a month?" She had been there in the recommendation test, so she could notice the difference between now and the previous month. But I didn't expect her to point to it directly. I looked at her face, saying, "Yes. You too. I've been working out lately," she replied. "My quirk is about my stamina, so I had to work out a lot." Lowering my head from her face, I stared at her shape. She had an hourglass shape, thin waist. But by no means she was thin. She was fit, as you could tell some muscles were there. Her thighs and hips were large for her 164 centimeters frame. Still, perfect for me. "You keep yourself in shape," I said, quite mesmerized by her shape. Maybe I should ask her out. Memories of a woman telling me that she could be my mom and that I should look for girls my age flashed in my head. "Obviously, since I was training longer than you had," she replied. Ignoring the PTSD Midnight had given me, I asked, "You want to work out sometimes together?" She placed her finger on her lips, tightening her head and staring at my face before looking down at my body from head to toe. She nodded and asked, "Is it like a date?" "Since it happens on a certain day, it's a date," I said, steeling myself to face the same feelings I had that day, the day I asked Midnight out. The worst she could say isn't no, I hoped. "Okay, you call the day and time," she replied, smiling. "I'll text you," I smiled, patting her on the shoulder, before looking at the remaining tests. Being in high morale, I wasn't holding back at all. I scored the highest in grip strength and punching strength and weightlifting. The only thing I came second at was speed. But the difference wasn't that big. I looked at my classmates while thinking of which one would have good DNA to sell. Someone had super speed. Someone could release a drugging gas out of his body. Another could shoot spikes from his hands. Another could create a gravity field 2 meters around. He happened to score the last. Having thought about that, I shook my head while thinking that dealing with crazy scientists was profitable. Chapter 11. After school ended and as I was about to head home, I spotted my homeroom teacher standing in my way. She gave me a kind of teasing smirk. I wondered what's up with her. But outside the school, she was a celebrity, and you couldn't question what's wrong with these people. "Sound too excited for your first day in school," she said, crossing her arms and blocking my way. I looked left and right before pointing my thumb at myself. She nodded with a smirk that showed her white teeth. "If you were talking about my performance, maybe? You were too hardworking on your first day," she said. "You looked like you found motivation." Hold on. She could smell something. Did she know I asked a classmate on a date? I mean, it happened under her eyes. It's not surprising. I crossed my arms and said, "It was a form of competition. Couldn't help but give it my best." "You felt like you were trying to show off," she said. "Possibly you asked someone out?" I chuckled. "Maybe you remembered me asking you out for the first time and confused things?" "A guy who asked a woman double his age out won't stop at anything," she said. "And don't try to gaslight me." "What are you saying?" I asked, blinking twice. "If you want to be a hero, you should have discipline and work hard. Besides, it's quite unethical to date at school. It could bring unnecessary tension when you, let's say, break up or have a break." She spoke. I agreed with her, except on one point, unethical. That was rich coming from an +18 rated heroine. I looked at her and what she was wearing. When she turned to write something on the table, you could see the outline of curvy hips and a huge butt. Which one was more ethical, her teaching high school kids or me asking a girl my age out? "If you can't hold yourself in front of a teacher, what will you do in front of a villainess?" she said as if she could read my mind. Better not argue. The truth to be told, I didn't care. I had a self-rule. Act like they want and do what you want. I gave her a slight bow and said, "Thank you for explaining that to me, Midnight Sensei. It was eye-opening." "Foo-foo, relax. I'm just teasing you. I want you to focus on your performance now. Once you become a hero, you'll have women throw themselves at you. So don't waste your potentials for a sweet high school romance." I didn't expect her to say that, and I didn't agree. There was no guarantee I would still be alive in the future to enjoy the vision she had for me. I wasn't a grind worshiper. I only work hard when I have a goal, and I wouldn't crush my psychology by overworking. But there was something else I was curious about. "Excuse me, Midnight Sensei, but I have a question?" She raised her eyebrow. "Yes." I scratched my chin. "How did you know that going after a girl would waste my potentials?" She winked, saying while holding a laugh, "Because a ton of people wasted their time because of me. This was a rare moment when a devil warned you from the devil." "If that's all, I'll be leaving," I replied. She nodded, and I took off, taking the school bus that put me next to my home. The first thing I did was taking a shower and having a hand release on the memory of an plus 18 rated heroin teaching my class. After that, I rested on my bed and opened my system, looking for something interesting in the market. Plus 5,000 coins. These came from Orochimaru, indicating that he had made a good deal with my Netisballs. I wondered if there were anything interesting in Channel 1 and 2. Going to Channel 1, I saw someone putting something precious on sale. Selling my Keki Jinkai. I'm on a mission of revenge, and to buy the weapon I need. I'm selling it for only 60.000 gold. Written by the survivor of the Uchiha. 60,000 gold was a very high amount of money that could buy me a lot of resources to cultivate my body and soul. It also could get one a lot of dangerous weapons. I could even buy something fancy such as a 10,000-year-old spiritual herb. But come on. If this guy was an Uchiha selling their Keki Jinkai, it would be worth it even in the higher realms. Imagine having an eye that could cast Genjutsu. No, just the superior vision and the ability to predict movements in advance was worth it. And I had to admit, even though I was strong, my fighting SK*LLS were a bit lacking. If I got this deal, I'd be able to master any martial art by watching YouTube. Also, I knew that if someone saw the buying offer, they would take it. But by them, I meant Orochimaru. Chat request sent. Could you put your Keki Jinkai on hold? I asked. Do you know what kind of people I hate the most? Annoying ones. That's the second. That confirmed my doubts about who this man claiming to be the last of the Uchiha was. Since he was selling his Keki Jinkai, it seemed that he didn't know about the Susanoo, meaning he hadn't awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan, meaning that Sasuke was still a kid, meaning that he was naive. He could get a good deal on him. Listen, I know that not many know the value of your Keki Jinkai, and I'll guarantee you that no one will ever want it at this level for this price. You can try, but I know it. I'm just in a hurry to level up, so I gave you a good deal. What do you think you know? Let me guess. You want to have the power to go to a higher realm and trade with them to have a way to cultivate, right? Again, cultivation worlds were on different levels. Destroying a mountain range with one attack wasn't a big deal. Go ahead. You want to achieve a goal so badly, and that's why you're overpricing your Keki Jinkai. If it's overpriced, why do you want it? I thought of a lie and said, because there are guys who want to live their fantasies. Your eyes have the power to create that illusion. That didn't sound like a bad idea to use the Sharingan. I may even live my fantasies without having to watch hentai. But come on again. My current world was a world where every fetish could be fulfilled. Furry, monster girls, giant/tiny, BDSM, super people. You seem to be knowledgeable about the Uchiha. Who are you? It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is what I can offer you. Go ahead. If you hold your Keki Jinkai for me, I'll pay 60.000 gold, and I'll give you a cultivation method for free, which actually worth around 20-30k, and offer you a pill that could make you strong for free. If it appeared that I'm lying, you can cancel the deal. You'll notice the change in your body right away. Since I've memorized my cultivation method, I didn't need it anymore. I could put it on sale, but it would take a ton of time to sell, especially with those who tried to scam people with low-priced cultivating methods. Luckily for me, I had a VIP privilege to tell me the average price of the market. Cultivation method? So it's true. You'll be able to buy these things once you get to a higher realm. Mine is among the tops. All right then, send me those things. Let's make a contract first. Don't you trust me, the survivor of the Uchiha? I laughed, finding the guy's attempt cute. Did he seriously want me to pay him in advance without having a guarantee that I get what I wanted from him? Do you trust your brother? No. If you don't trust your own brother, how can I trust you? Bring your contract. After negotiating with the edgelord, I ended up getting the Keki Jinkai on hold for a couple of weeks since the edgelord was in a hurry. I was certain that if he met Orochimaru, the latter would give him a better deal than mine. I had to do so. Now, the last question was how to make that money. I looked at my shoulder, noticing that there was blue hair. It belonged to Nijire. I still had a few hair samples that were good and I could use to fulfill the contract with Orochimaru. Nijire had a very strong quirk that allowed her to fly and send very strong shockwaves that she was in front of lines in the anime when fighting. Who would want to buy these things other than crazy scientists and those who had search facilities? If Orochimaru doesn't offer a good price, I'd see myself seeing someone else. If there was a quirk, overpowered, it would be Stains. But that dude is a total maniac. I shivered before seeing my friend's list, requesting a chat with Orochimaru. Luckily, Orochimaru was online. The snake was the one who would be interested in these things. Listen, do you remember asking me about interesting DNAs that could make a good Keki Jinkai? Yes, I know a girl with a strong ability that could create shockwaves strong enough to destroy icebergs. I'll be generous, 25,000 coins. I said as I held Nijire's hair. Interesting, but I don't think you should set a high price for something like this. It allows her to fly, and that's just her natural body function, without chakra, just stamina. Moreover, how can one defend against shockwaves? Sounds interesting. 20,000 coins. 22,500. 21,000. Fine. Just because we have a good trading history. I then sent the DNA sample to Orochimaru, earning myself 21,000 coins. That was still far from reaching what I needed to get the Uchiha's blood. Also, what about what I asked you for? You still have 2 more DNA samples to provide. Right. I then sent him 2 DNA samples of 2 guys with mediocre quirks. One could control the wind, and the other had a lightning-fast jab. With this, I had over 35k. Are there any interesting powers around? There is a guy who could turn parts of his body into food he ate before digesting it. Doesn't sound interesting. Do you want to know something interesting? Go ahead. I don't know. If I told you, you would try to act smart and get a good deal. Is there someone with an interesting power in your world? A man who could paralyze anyone by licking their blood, and the distance doesn't matter. As long as you have a blood sample of your enemy, you can paralyze him for 5 to 10 minutes. Imagine how overpowered Stain's tongue would be in other worlds. If your enemy ran away from you, and you have their blood, you could bring them down easily. You want to take down the world government, get some blood. You want a monster down and it's a bit wounded, so be it. If you bring me his blood, you get 50k. Not a chance. I replied, I'd love to test something first. You would want to test if you could use the saliva enzymes directly, and then make a contract for profit. It seemed that Orochimaru was thinking about the same thing I was thinking of. Sorry, business is business. Not only can you clone, and I'm pretty certain a certain guy called Joker in the world of Class 1 would be interested. I get you. You want a contract, right? 70% of the earnings, plus 50k in advance. I said, opening the window for negotiations. Outrageous. You're being too greedy. I may be in a hurry to get the Sharingan, but there is no way I'd waste a once-in-a-lifetime offer. With the overall profit potentials, if you want it, you have to pay the price for it. If you don't, I understand. You are the only one who has used me this far and still alive. I don't know if I'd stay alive, but I'm going to hunt that man down for cheap. And I'm not a mercenary to work for you and let a deal slip from me. You don't have his DNA? Once I do, I'll contact you. Make sure you don't contact others, especially the Joker. The Joker was someone who controlled the Devil Fruits market, with prices ranging between 500k to 10 million coins. That guy was nothing but rich. Make sure I get a good offer. Bye. I replied. We know that after negotiating you'll accept 50%. So be it. Then I hung up the call, feeling sorry for my Neta in case this worked. He'd lose his job. He'd forget about having girls interested in him for my money. So, it's decided. This weekend I'll go after Stain. But for now, I need to buy a few weapons, magical items, and martial arts. Plus invisibility talisman, -5,000 coins, Moon Lotus Sect martial arts, consumable, -8,000 coins. Chapter 12. It was one day before the weekend, and as I walked around the rescue site, a teacher who was a woman dressed in a space suit was showing us the basics of rescuing. What's the matter? Are you finding something hard to understand? Nijire asked me. It was obvious that I was absent-minded. I stopped chewing on my nail and put my hand down. I turned to her, saying, Not really. You've been acting like that recently? Nijire asked, Are you nervous for tomorrow? Right. Tomorrow, we had a gym date. But that's not why I'm nervous. The real reason was because I'm after the hero K***ler, Stain. Unlike me, Stain was good at fighting real heroes with real powers and years of training. Would I be able to sneak up on such a person and steal his DNA? Even with all of the power-ups in the world, I was a bit doubtful. Not to mention that I'd be doing something against the law, being vigilant, which could get me kicked out of the school and even a year in a detention center if I were unlucky. The risks were so high, but the reward overshadowed them. Is that so? I never noticed. I replied. Trying to shift the conversation direction, I said, Forget about me. Tell me, how was your day? You haven't posted on social media for long. Placing her finger on her bottom lip, Nijire replied, I know, right? To have normal study at day, and hero course in the noon, it was quite exhausting. And my quirk uses up my stamina, which leaves me a bit tired after the lessons where I use my quirk. I guess I was oversleepy these days. Does your quirk consume stamina? I nodded. If I overused it, then yes. Then we are similar types, she replied in an innocent tone before smiling. Guess we could help each other? I tilted my eyebrow, thinking of something that was stamina-consuming and burned a lot of calories in the short term. How? I asked. She smiled. By spotting each other, obviously. Closing my eyes, I nodded. That works too. Come over here, Kenshiro, the teacher then called me. She was a woman around 180 centimeters dressed in a white spacesuit design with a helmet over her head. Her hero name was 13. Black hole happened to be the name of her quirk as she could release a black hole from her finger that could absorb most things. It was said that even light can't escape her sucking power. It made me wonder what else she could suck. Her quirk had high potential in battle, yet she had chosen to be a rescue hero. I wonder how much that quirk is worth in the system. I was thinking of money. I wasn't going to live broke. But my Netta was going to. Now, Kenshiro-san. You see the dolls on the water, she pointed at the lake. I want you to save 5 of them before the timer runs out. She held a timer in her hand. I was dressed in my hero costume, which we were free to design. I was never someone believing in flashy styles or something. All I wanted was a practical costume that suited my quirk. As a quirkless person, a warrior, I requested a bulletproof gray shirt, black pants, and a leather jacket. Basically, modern armor. Frowning at the fact I was going to get wet, I jumped into the water to do the rescue training. XXX. Today was the weekend, which meant that I had a day to go after the devilish hero K***. According to the anime, he would be in the city where Gran Torino lived. It was less than an hour away using the train, which meant that I had time to have a quick date, and then to achieve my mission. Achoo. I sneezed, remembering how I had to swim in the class of black hole. That salty teacher wanted me to catch the flu just because I was chatting with a girl while she was talking. I bought a magical medicine from the trading system, which cleared my system instantly and treated my flu. Those otherworldly stuff were good. When I arrived at the central gym with my gym bag on my shoulder, I found Nijire standing at the entrance and waving her hand at me. She wore sports-tight pants and a shirt with sleeves, which failed to contain her huge melons. Moreover, I had a better look at her curvy body. Man, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited. Kenshiro-san. You arrived earlier than I expected, she said, opening her arms to me for a hug, which I didn't refuse and hugged her back. You too, I replied, noticing that she was here earlier than we agreed on. I mean, even I was 10 minutes early. I had a morning run, so I got here earlier, she said. You don't appear you have run. You smell nice, I said, not noticing a hint of sweat on her. Maybe because I had a lot of stamina, she replied, pulling away from the hug and looking at my collarbone. You have big arms. Every day is an arm day, I replied. She gave my thigh a small fist, and you don't sound like you skip leg days. Jokingly, I said, hope you are not into arms only. Actually, I don't like boys whom legs are smaller than mine, that's all. Nijire replied. This girl, for sure, speaks whatever on her mind. Somehow, I liked it. But I guess if she talked innocently what's in her mind, she would offend some people, lose friends, and so. I mean, if I talked what's in my dark mind innocently, I won't just lose some friends. I won't just turn family against me. God only knows. She is a good person to have innocent thoughts like that. What about boys with smaller boobs? I teased, looking at my chest, or no boobs at all. She filled her cheeks with air, before chuckling, ha ha ha. Let's get in. I then entered the gym with her, registering myself, before we got into doing it. I got a few 100-kilogram dumbbells and started working on my arms. Forgetting about Nijire for a second, I focused on how much I improved after becoming a first-rank warrior and third-stage chi refining cultivator. The weights had gotten way lighter, and I could approach the 700-kilogram in curling. No, I can surpass it. What am I doing here again? It's just a date. No need to be serious. Aren't you going to use your aura? Nijire asked. When I turned my head, I saw her jumping on a rope that was barely visible. If I used it, I'd have more force, not strength. What about you? I asked. I don't need to use my quirk. Just improving my stamina, she replied. How long are you going to keep doing that? I asked her. From how comfortably she was talking, I thought she would take a long time. Not much, she replied. Around a half hour to an hour. I shook my head. The day was still long, and I still had time to go after Stain later. I didn't mind calling off one school day. After working on myself for a while, I looked at my gains as I stared in the mirror. Kenshiro, can you spot me here? Nijire asked. The face that was staring at me in the mirror changed its expression. I could swear that for a second, I saw a devil before being replaced by an angel. I turned to Nijire and walked over to her, seeing that she was taking a squat stance with extra weight on the sides. She was working on her stamina, so it was possible that she could get overtired and the weights could fall on her. I got you. Saying that, I got behind her and placed my hands on her shoulders. As she squatted, I moved with her. I won't lie, I was quite aroused and I couldn't keep my hand on her upper back as the huge cheeks down there took all of my attention. Once her legs started getting shaky, I held the weight and pressed myself against her, saying, "You can do it," a few more times. She squatted slowly, and so did I. For a second, my crotch was pressed against her hips. I would lie if I said that a switch wasn't flipped in me. I looked at the mirror to see what kind of expression she made. If she was offended, I'd take a step back. If she was okay with it, I'd go along. She had pinkish cheeks and gentle eyes, and she was still pushing the weights. As she stood up, she did another squat, and I followed suit. Looking at the mirror again, I could tell that she wasn't against it. She seemed to like it. "More," I said, and so she did, even though her legs were about to collapse. "You've got this," I urged, more excited than her. "Erg," she struggled. "You can do it," I encouraged. Imagine losing to a villain because you couldn't do one more. Motivated, she did a few more reps. Finally, she dropped to her knees. I held the bar from falling, and I looked at the mirror, a muscular young man with shorts that couldn't hide his huge boner. Nijire turned her head to me, "And you're doing curls with a weight that could K*LL me." She then looked at my body and stopped for a second. Since we were in public, I wished that Nijire's personality, which urged her to speak whatever was on her mind, didn't emerge in this particular moment. "Nice thing you got down there," she said, smiling with her cheeks turning a bit pink. "But you should hold on to yourself. Don't blush. Don't blush. It's a bit embarrassing." "Nijire, I'm a dude. I can't spot you without that happening," I replied. "So, you like me?" she spoke. "It's okay. I like you too. Want to have a coffee break?" "Sure." After hitting the shower, we met outside at a cafe. We chatted a bit before I accompanied her to the metro station, where she would go home. Despite her talking about things, I wasn't actually paying attention. She was complaining that some people in our class were thinking that she was looking down at their quirks because she just spoke her mind, which she wasn't. I didn't offer a solution to her trouble. I just said that I hoped she'd be fine and that I'm sorry it happened to her, and she shrugged it off by asking me questions about my personal life. I only answered minimally. Other than my secret, I was not an interesting person. All I did was work out or stay in my room and train or trade. Just tonight, I'd broken the cycle by going on a date and then going after a crazy villain later. When her metro came, she looked at me, saying, "So it's goodbye." "Yeah, I enjoyed my time with you," I said whatever cliché came to mind. "Want to go out again?" "I'd love to," she said before staring at my lips. That's the universal sign. I looked back at her lips. Our faces approached each other, my lips landing on hers. It was a very small kiss, yet it made my face vibrate. She took her lips back, her face quite pinkish, saying, "See you tomorrow then." She then went to catch her train. After that, I wiped my fluffy lips. I started planning my future with her. But nothing is guaranteed, so I decided to hold my thoughts. I had something else to focus on, which was a mission that could bring me a huge passive income over the year. I went to the train station. I had already booked a trip to the next city. I opened my system storage, looking for the stuff I had. Invisibility talisman. Smoke bombs. Shinobi armor. I checked my list before entering my train. Time to hunt the hero K***'s DNA. Chapter 13. A sliver of light appeared in front of the hero, who jumped backward to avoid the blade that shone next to his neck. The sleepless red eyes of the villain shone, holding an endless K***ling intent behind them. Stain stared at the hero. Reaching into his pocket with a swift move, Stain grabbed 3 kunais and threw them. The hero opened his eyes widely. Enhancing his strength and drawing on his long life experience, he jumped to the side. Joining his hands together and clenching them, he jumped high towards Stain, slamming onto him, but Stain just vanished. The hero's heart skipped a beat as his fist made contact with the ground, spreading a huge crack. The hero stopped, shaking. He tasted blood. A burning feeling came from his cheek. He touched his cheek, confirming that the wound didn't run too deep. "Stain, you bastard," Your evil ends here tonight, said the hero as he turned to Stain, who had already grabbed his knives. The only thing that will end is the fake heroes running around this society, replied Stain as he licked the knife. The hero, known as the Boulder, who was known to tank any attack and keep fighting with his endless vitality for the first time in his life, was unable to take a step forward. A numbness took over him. His body refused to obey him, refused to move. Stain, with crazed eyes red with bloodlust, grabbed his katana and walked slowly toward the fake hero. The Boulder just realized that he had messed up. All he could do was watch as someone was about to take his life. Stop. Please don't K*LL me. The hero struggled to say these words. Stain raised his sword. The hero closed his eyes gently, accepting his fate. Suddenly, a loud voice grabbed Stain's attention. This society is full of fake heroes. The fakest of them all is All Might, the #1 fake. Stain flinched, his lips shaking as his sword remained in position. He thought his ears were playing tricks on him because there was no way someone would say such a thing. I am here. Who dares say that? Yelled the voice. Stain felt pain in his ears and heart. He couldn't believe that there could be someone who would say that about All Might, the one true hero. Not only did Stain flinch, but the fake hero on the ground did too. Stain looked at the hero, who nodded as if telling him to deal with the fool first before they could finish each other. This hero was an idiot to think that Stain was going to deal with the rude person first. Stain sliced through the nerves in the hero's arms and legs in an attempt to cripple him. He then started walking in the direction of the voice. Other than useless villains and fake heroes, these loudmouth people need to learn a lesson, muttered Stain, walking confidently toward the direction of the voice. XXX. I was walking around the abandoned spots, spreading what people could consider blasphemy. But I had to do this since I wanted to draw Stain out. Other than K*Ling fake heroes, what that hero K*Ler idolized was All Might. To him, All Might was a deity. Mouth Almighty badly, and the hero hunter would get triggered. Even the nicest man would get triggered if his sacred beliefs were insulted. I had no doubt that this would do the job. I had my fair share of online trolling in both lives. When I heard an agile footstep, I stopped and smirked nervously behind the mask. Thanks to my warrior training, my senses had improved, and I could feel the K*Ling intent people would have toward me better than anyone. I could detect an assassin. That's what the people in chat said while speaking of their ranks. Anyway, I channeled chakra, using it for the first time to fight, to climb the building and stand opposite. Currently, I was temporarily invisible since I had used my talisman. Moreover, to prepare for this battle, I had bought martial arts from the cultivation world and an armor from the shinobi world, which I was wearing. If I wasn't invisible, I would look like a shinobi in black armor and a black mask covering everything. I held a few small balls in my hand. They were smoke bombs. I watched carefully as the hero hunter leaked his K*Ling intent. I admit it. I was quite nervous, barely keeping my breathing organized. Albeit invisible, I could clearly hear my own heart. It felt like being in a horror movie. It was my first time on the battlefield, and it was against a maniacal serial K*Ler. I also had to make sure that my identity wouldn't get leaked. If that happened, I'd lose my chance to become a hero and, in the worst case, go to jail or be chased by heroes. Like I said, a horror movie. Scary, but nothing more than that. Where are you, bastard? I haven't heard what you were saying about All Might well. Can you repeat that? Said a voice. I turned my head to see a man walking with his arms extended. I held my breath. It was time to work. I threw the smoke bombs in his direction, spreading a large smoke screen that surrounded Stain. I then grabbed a few kitchen knives from my pocket and covered them in my aura before throwing them. Thanks to the shinobi knowledge I had acquired, I managed to throw them effectively. I know it's stupid for me to use my aura since that could later trace the police to me. But there was a smoke screen to cover Stain, so he wouldn't see that coming. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of a series of explosions could be heard whenever a knife hit the ground. Kitchen knives weren't the best weapons, but they could be deadly with aura. When the smoke screen cleared, Stain appeared with only his cheek wounded. He was holding his sword with one hand. It looked like I had underestimated his SK*LL since he was able to deflect my weapon while being covered in smoke. I got a trace of his blood. All I need is to get the knife. Although there are other things that I want to know, I didn't care. I should stay hidden and wait until he leaves, then take the blood and make contact with Orochimaru. With that thought, I waited for Stain to leave. But he didn't. He was looking left and right. Come on, Stain. I didn't have all night. Don't you have other heroes to K*LL? The invisibility talisman didn't have much time, It was just 20 minutes, and it was going to burn out soon. I took a deep, slow breath as I watched Stain being as stubborn as ever. "I know you're here, the bastard who talked trash about All Might," Stain said as he walked in a random direction, picking up the knives that hit him. I hoped that he'd throw them away. But contrary to my expectations, he put them in his pocket. No way I'd let that happen. Channeling my chi, I aimed my palm at Stain and pushed, releasing an air palm from my hand, which Stain seemed to feel. Just as it was about to hit him, he jumped and backflipped, letting the palm make a human-sized mark on the wall. With that attack, I revealed myself, and the invisibility wore off. "You're there," Stain said, pointing at me. Thinking of something funny like gaslighting Stain, I landed on the ground. I pointed my finger at him, yelling, "Are you the bastard who talked trash about All Might?" I clenched my fist as I jumped down. Such kind of act is unacceptable. Tilting his head, he cursed at me with confusion in his voice. "Huh? Who the fuck are you? And who do you think you are to accuse me of such blasphemy? You look like a villain." "I know it must be you," I replied as I cracked my fists. "Look at you." He pointed at me. "Covering your ass with lies won't save you." "I heard you," I said, squatting on one leg and taking a fighting stance. "Now, be a good boy and accept your punishment." Chapter 14. Not believing that I had just gaslight Stain, I rushed toward him. I may not have experience in martial arts, but thanks to the system, I managed to absorb a martial art of a sect from the cultivation world into my brain. That martial art was more focused on exploiting human weaknesses and joints. You know how powerful those guys were. You know, the distance that usually takes the MC to fly for years, when he levels up, would be crossed in minutes, and they would still have an enemy that could K*LL them with a slap. Their martial arts were so advanced that they could fight armies of those who were just one rank under them, not just a few levels at the same rank. Stain had a confused look when I squatted and punched him in the face. But the K*LR instinct kicked in. He jumped backward, perfecting his timing to make my punch work as a push, lessening the damage to himself. Stain backflipped and held his sword with two hands, pointing the blade at me. "I don't know who you are or what you're doing, but if you think I could say such blasphemy, then I have to take you down." He had a calm look, not looking confused anymore. Now the beast had regained his composure. I looked left and right, searching for a weapon. I stomped on the ground, a metallic pipe rose, and I held it. My physical capabilities were high, and I could finish the fight the moment I used aura. The thing I feared was if I used my aura and Stain got arrested, he would testify that a man with a red aura attacked him. In a world where people's quirks were registered, you couldn't get away with it. The detectives could link it to me, but I could use chakra to augment my attacks. Stain dashed at me with his sword, swinging it. My body instinctively reacted by forcing my strength to my toe, making me slide a meter backward in an instant. Seeing that there was an opening, I held my metallic pipe as if I were holding a sword and swung. Stain brought the blade above his head and blocked. His blade failed to cut the pipe. I continued with a series of heavy attacks, and Stain's legs were shaking with each one. I didn't dare to underestimate him, since having more strength didn't mean my foe hadn't dealt with those stronger. Stain gave up on blocking as he jumped a few meters in the air, backflipping. From his hand, in an instant, a series of kunais headed at me, each aimed toward a vital point. Chakra wasn't a good option to block these either, and I didn't know if my armor could block everything. I channeled my mana, bringing my aura under my clothes, which deflected the kunais. How do I beat him? He is agile like a cat, but he is not strong. I ran around with my max speed, turning into a blur like a human, and Stain had to keep turning his head to look for me. He reached into his pocket, throwing a knife at me. I jumped, placing my legs on a nearby wall and squatted on it. Stain, like a ninja, dashed at me. It's all or nothing, I thought, before jumping and flying toward Stain. "You can't dodge in the air," mocked Stain. I slammed my palm in the air at him. From this distance, Stain won't be able to dodge. My palm was surrounded by golden light before a strong wave flew from it, hitting Stain and sending him flying 10 meters away to a wall, marking his side with a palm mark. Puking blood, Stain dropped his sword and fell to his knees. "Who are you?" he asked. "For a vigilante, you're strong." I took a series of quick breaths, as being a 5th-level chi refining cultivator didn't provide me with enough energy to use this technique very often, and I had used it twice. By the third time, I'd suffer from fatigue. "I'm someone who is going to stop you from hunting heroes," I said, pretending to be righteous. Now that I had brought him to his knees, there was no use gaslighting him. There was only time to make sure that he didn't recover. And so, I firmly clenched my hand around the metal pipe as I stood above the villain. I started hitting him repeatedly, His face turned so ugly that even the police wouldn't recognize him. "You're not," Stain said, "not fainting from the repeated beating. You're not going to stop me from clearing the society from fake heroes and unnecessary villains." "By unnecessary villains, you mean yourself?" I asked, stopping beating him up. "Are you an idiot?" "I just explained my role," he said. "That's a necessary evil. Imagine a little girl about to get crushed by a car, and she needs a strong hero to save her. Yet you K** led that hero, and there was no one to do his job. What will you say to that little girl that got K***led?" I said as I squatted next to him. I weaved a series of hand signs slowly, lightning covering my palm. "I'll tell you that she deserves a true hero," replied Stain, forcing me to express my disgust under my mask. "Is he all right?" I wondered as I placed my lightning palm on his head. Waving a few hand signs with my other hand, I released the lightning palm jutsu, electrocuting Stain unconscious. I then grabbed a few tubes from my storage. I placed the tube on Stain's mouth, collecting the saliva. Now, I wondered if I should K***ll him. Thinking about that idea, I felt disgusted, as if I were going to fix a rotten toilet with my bare hands. Also, I didn't want to test my consciousness. I reached into Stain's pockets, and sure enough, the villain had a smartphone. I dialed the police. You may think, why didn't I use my phone and say that I found a villain unconscious in an abandoned spot, which would raise the question of why was I in a different city in the first place at this time of night. Using Stain's phone, I called the cops and told them about the hero K***lure before burning the phone with my aura. I then picked up the DNA of Stain and his saliva in tubes. But just to make sure Stain wouldn't be able to do anything if he escaped, I stomped on his leg, breaking it. Now, I could complete my deal with Orochimaru, but first, I needed to test something with Stain's saliva to avoid being scammed. Chapter 15. I sneaked into my house, only to find my parents waiting for me, asking me where I had been and why I was gone this late. I ended up making an excuse, saying that I was too tired from the hero course and slept on a public chair. Mom yelled that it was too dangerous to sleep outside, and she asked what I would do if I were stabbed or mugged or if a villain fight happened anywhere. She also asked why my phone was turned off, only to reply that my battery was dead. To end the conversation, I excused myself. "Excuse me, I have school to wake up for." After saying that, I went to my room, pretending to be sleepy. I wasn't sleepy at all. I was too excited to feel any dizziness. After all, Stain's DNA was worth more to me than a few hours of sleep. Getting to my room, I plugged my phone into a charger. I then lay on my bed. Opening the system, I grabbed a small pill and swallowed it. Combat was the best way to accelerate cultivation. I then sent a chat request to Orochimaru before taking a meditation pose and starting to cultivate. Thanks to the battle where I used my chi for the first time near exhaustion, my cultivation path went smoothly. I usually don't like to go into details like this, but there was a dragon forming in my dantian and growing with the energy inside my stomach. A few hours of sleep were skipped like that, and when I woke up, I smirked. Chi refining, level 6. 3 levels more to go, and then to Earth Realm. After that, things would take months, or even a couple of years to reach Heaven Realm, where I can fly. I need tons of money if I want to make things faster. Luckily, I have a way. Anyway, back to my main quest. I took a tube that contained Stain's saliva. I then bit my finger, wounding myself and squeezing my blood. I don't know why they made it look easy in anime, but biting your finger was very painful and I winced. I exhaled a cold breath on my finger. Sons of bitches lied to me. I then poured a bit of saliva on top of my blood. It was necessary for me to know if the paralysis was caused by Stain's saliva or the tongue. Luckily, I got numb, unable to move. I tried to move my body, my fingers, my hands, but nothing. Even my lips were barely moving, and it seemed that I needed some time before I was able to talk again. I couldn't even laugh in happiness. This product is going to get me a ton of money. I understood why Orochimaru didn't refuse the deal about this quirk. I was certain that anyone else would accept it and pay handsomely for it. But since Orochimaru had helped me with free shinobi knowledge, I guess I could give him a once-in-a-lifetime deal. It's not like I like to deal with villains, but I'm just a trader. The numbness wore off, and I exhaled an excited laugh. Orochimaru had accepted your quest. I heard a bell ring in my ear. Now that I could barely move my eyes and mouth, I chatted with him. "Listen, let's make a contract right now." You know, I changed my mind. "I don't think I'm getting it for a fair price," Orochimaru said. He dared to negotiate for a lower price, I see. Shame. It works very well. But okay. Your loss, not mine. I replied. Orochimaru was obviously trying to lower the price. Works very well. You have tested the saliva. Don't worry about it. Oh, Mr. Joker is selling devil fruits for millions. I guess he won't mind making a deal with me. Where are you going? It's not like it's not the first time we negotiated the price. LOL. Let's sign the contract. Cheap bastard. All right. By making a contract through the system, I sent Orochimaru what he asked for, plenty of Stain's DNA and a saliva sample. 50% of the earnings Orochimaru would make from whatever product he could make with Stain's DNA belonged to me, and I got an extra 50k golden coins. A rush of happiness invaded my system when I saw that I had over 80k golden coins. I then sent a chat request to the last Uchiha, demanding that we do the trade, before I threw myself into bed, closing my eyes and trying to enjoy the couple of hours I had before the school day. But I couldn't. The Sasuke Uchiha accepted the trade on the spot, saying, "You've taken too much time. We agreed on 2 weeks delay for extra cash. It hasn't been a week, dude. Forget it. You have the money." Yes. The last of the Uchiha didn't say anything. I found a trading request for his bloodline in exchange for 60k. I looked at the bloodline and asked the system for details. I won't just trade with him because he's the name of the Uchiha in him. I may be greedy for chances, but I'm not someone who can get scammed easily. After checking, fair enough, he didn't lie. It was indeed the bloodline of the Uchiha I was getting. Trade successful. Dash 60k. Using VIP discount. Plus 12k. If he wasn't in a hurry, and he leveled up to deal with people from an upper realm and explained the abilities of his eyes, he would have gotten a price like the Logia Devil Fruits, possibly 500k. But since he was dealing with level 1 people in World 0 channels, he could only find customers who didn't have the privilege to absorb the items. This made me curious. What kind of weapon Sasuke wanted to buy? By the way, I have a question. Go ahead. What weapon did you want to buy that you had to sell your Kekii Genkai? I asked. He sent me a screenshot. It was a gun. I laughed. Someone dared to sell a normal gun, Glock 17, for 60,000 coins. You know, each coin was worth $300. It meant someone tried to sell a gun for $18 million. This is a thunder speed projectile shooter. You are a lucky son of a bitch, I said. Excuse me. I could get such a thing in my world for what's worth 3 coins. You were saying that person was scamming people. Thank you, then. The last of the Uchiha left the chat, not saying another word. Not wasting time, I got the bloodline of the Uchiha in my item list and clicked absorb. My body felt hot all of a sudden. My chakra reserves grew tremendously. I looked at my hands. Not only did I get a Kekii Genkai, but I felt somehow my body grew stronger. Chapter 16. I was sitting in the school bus, staring at my reflection in the glass, channeling my chakra to my eyes. A red eye with 2 Tomo in one and 1 Tomo in the other appeared. While the bus was moving fast, I stared at the passing cars. Usually, they'd be blurry, but this time, I could see them moving clearly. I could even see how the wheels were spinning, catching most of the little details. The speed of my thoughts increased dramatically as well. My head hurt a bit. I closed my eyes, thinking that my brain wasn't used to info load like this. There was something about these eyes, and I hoped it wasn't bad luck and tragedy. I blinked twice, and the red eyes disappeared, being replaced by my dark purplish ones. So, once I have 3 Tomo, I'd see an image of their next movement. But for now, I should let my brain get used to more info intake. I thought as I grabbed my phone and turned it on, a load of messages flooding my phone. They were from Nijire, and they went like this. Hi, are you there? I just wanted to tell you that I enjoyed our time. Why aren't you picking up? Are you avoiding me? I opened my eyes widely, massaging my temple, and muttered, what a headache. These things never happen when you are single. The best thing to do now is not to wait until meeting her face to face. Sorry. I overslept yesterday and my battery died. Just saw your messages now. Oh, I see, she replied instantly. I responded, see you in class. With that sent, I put my phone back in my pocket and crossed one leg over the other. I sighed, thinking that this situation wasn't as tense as last night when I had kicked the ass of a villain. The news about Stain hadn't spread. Maybe he had run away, maybe he was caught by the cops. But with his leg being shattered, I doubted that he could do much. I could have made sure he would get arrested. But that wasn't my responsibility first, and most importantly, I would have put my career in danger. You may think that I'm evil, but that didn't matter to me. My principle is to do good unless it puts me in danger. After reaching the school, I went directly to my class. I hated that UA was a very large school since it took quite a long time to get to my class, where I saw my classmates chatting. I took my seat and crossed one leg over the other, massaging my temples due to the lack of sleep. I had yet to achieve the cultivation level where I wouldn't need sleep. But whatever. Look who showed up, Nijire said as she stood next to my seat. I smiled. Hi, senpai. She sat on my table, saying, Why haven't you answered me yesterday? By any chance, did you get my message? I asked, knowing the answer. She reached for her phone and scrolled, her eyebrows lifting. She said, Oh, but couldn't you reply sooner? Did you check your phone as soon as you plugged it in? I mean, you should at least expect someone texting you, no? She had a point. I should have expected some message from her since we had a date where I applied my crotch to her butt. It may have seemed like I ghosted her, so it's better to make an excuse to make everyone happy. Shrugging my shoulders, I replied, My brother's battery died and he had the charger first. Mom said she'd plug mine in once my brother's was charged. Spoiler alert, she didn't. She sighed in relief. Wondering, I asked, was something bothering you? For a moment, I thought you were trying to avoid me, she said. So, she was the insecure one. But everything is fine, right? She added with a smile. Laughing slightly, I replied, and here I was thinking to invite you for coffee after school. Really? She said, blinking twice, before smiling. That's nice of you. But I don't drink coffee. Milk? I asked. I'm not a toddler, she replied, filling her cheeks with air. Shame. She didn't even ask what kind of milk I was offering. I'd like to treat you like one, I replied. Take your seats, Midnight said as she entered the class. If anyone has a date later, reconsider. For the noon, you have a stimulation battle. Nijire left my table and took her seat. A stimulation battle, one of the class seating in front asked. What is that? Your teacher, Snipe, will monitor you. A stimulation battle is a game where one team pretends to be heroes and the other pretends to be villains. It's to help you get used to fighting people with different types of quirks and help you get used to using your own. Of course, the hero team should try their best to avoid causing damage to the surroundings. One student asked a question, but Midnight said, Leave your questions for the other teacher. For now, you'd have your normal classes. She turned to the board to write the day plan. Yes, turn. That's what all of the boys here hoped for. It gives every man a reason to wake up in the morning. I shook my head, bashing those sinful ideas aside. We then had our normal classes, from math and physics, and finally, history and English. I wondered why in the hell heroes who were trained to fight were taught subjects like this. These heroes didn't even go to college. So, if I became a hero, I won't have to go to college to teach it. I get a lot of free years ahead of me, and no one would look down on me academically. No wonder everyone wants to be a hero. Once the classes were over, I went to the cafeteria like everyone else, and we started eating. Nijire came and sat facing me, looking at my plate. Wow, how much is that? She asked. Kenshiro, that's a lot of food. In UA, you have every kind of food presented, and you could eat without limit. There was even Wagyu here. How rich this school was. But I didn't care. I decided to use the opportunity. Also, when you build a good amount of muscles, thinking of losing them due to little food can be a nightmare sometimes. Better not waste it then, I replied, eating and looking at her plate. She had some steak, salad, and another dish that I didn't know the name of. You look happy, Nijire said. What happened, by the way? I just realized that one wouldn't have to go to college. Have to go to college? Why would anyone think of that? Oh, right. You didn't discover your quirk until lately. So people without quirks steal themselves for academic years? She said while her finger was next to her lips, eyes looking at the roof. She had a strong quirk, so she seemed to have never considered college. She confirmed to me that ignorance of the normal man's career was a bliss. She had no idea how hellish the exam period in university was like. How you had to deal with professors who had superiority complexes that could turn your academic years into a living hell. Yeah, quirkless people tend to feel like that, I replied. Thinking of changing the subject, I said, I'm not interested in that. Tell me, what have you done yesterday? I'm curious after the fuss you made in the texts. Well, after I got home, I found one of skincare. She said, and I lost track of what she was saying, so I focused on the taste of the food while looking at her pretty face. When the girl is pretty, what she'd say isn't important as long as it's not, I'm pregnant, or we should take a break, or someone died. Whenever she paused, I'd reply by raising my eyebrows, saying, really? What happened next? Of course, that changed when I caught a glimpse of something bad happened, Whoa. It's a SK*LL developed when you have people liking to talk a lot around you. Thanks, Kenshiro. You're a good listener, she said, earning a nod from me. I got you. I replied, looking at the hour. The lunch break is over. Guess it's time for battle simulation training. If we got on the same team, it'd be awesome. If got against each other, I'll get you back for making me worry yesterday, she said with the most innocent smile. You could see that I didn't take her seriously. Laughing, I patted her on the shoulder, saying, I look forward to that. Me too, she said, before we made our way together to the class.